Okay, guys, we are going to dive right into this. I am here today with Kristin Iris of IgniteThriveCreative.com. How are you, Kristin?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Very good. I'm so excited to have you on the Influencer Entrepreneurs podcast.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
Well, one of the things that I love about your site, and I actually found you through a different Facebook group, everything about you is mindset, and it's such a positive mindset that I think that it's just something that I think my readers are really going to love, and I can't wait for them to get to know more about you. Before we really dive into that side of your business, tell us a little bit about your business and any of your previous experience that you have before you were an online entrepreneur.
So this is actually probably like my fourth business. So this one I've had for probably around a year, and I've actually recently rebranded. But before that, my first sort of endeavor into entrepreneurship came from yoga. So I started teaching yoga and moving into the yoga industry and body work and energy work as well. And I liked it, but it wasn't really what like spoke to me. And so I kind of jumped around to different things, started to use those tools to help martial artists and fighters because I'm also a martial artist. And that one also, like, I liked it, but it wasn't really a good fit. And then I went back to yoga, and then now I've taken what I learned, a lot of things that I learned in yoga and a lot of the transformations that I've made for myself, and I've taken them off the mat, and now I'm bringing them to, in particular, female creatives and entrepreneurs. So what I do in my business, I'm a transformation mentor, and I help female creatives and entrepreneurs to really get to the root of what's holding them back, like deep down, the stuff they may not even realize is going on, and then clear that out so that they can step back into their power, so that they can own all the aspects of themselves, own all the parts of themselves, even the parts that they like to kind of hide away or have rejected because they're afraid of what society will think or afraid of judgment. And from that place of being fully expressed, create the business and life that they really desire and that they really deserve.
I love that. It's such an empowering, just the way that you talk, like you have such an aura that like comes from you of just, it inspires me. So I'm so excited about really getting further into this. Tell me, just one of the questions I always ask everyone that comes on the show is, what is the toughest part about being an entrepreneur, would you say?
It's funny. What I would say for me and what I tend to get from other people, like the people I work with, are like two different things. So for me, I think one of the toughest things is like just getting in front of the right people. Like I'm so passionate about what I do, and I just want to get my message out in front of the right people and get to the people who I know that I can really help and who want my help. Because it's two different things. There's people that I know I can help, and then there's people who are willing to accept that help and are like, yes, I'm ready to take this step. So for me, I feel like that's one of the more challenging aspects. It's always been like exposure and getting out there. But what I hear from a lot of people is a lot of fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment. And a lot of the things that I find are blocking entrepreneurs and creatives from the people that I've had exposure to, the people that I've talked to, my clients, all of that is this underlying thing that ties back to fear. And fear of failure, I will actually just say this right off the bat because I recently did a live stream about this. There is really no such thing as fear of failure or fear of success. You're not afraid of failure. You're afraid of what failure is going to say about who you are or what it's going to mean for your life. That's what you're afraid of. So when people get stuck on, I have a fear of failure, I really encourage them to go deeper into, okay, but what would failure mean? Like what does that actually mean for you? Because failure is it's so vague and it's so surface at the top that it really doesn't even scratch the surface about what's going on internally for you.
And it's so different for each person, too, based on your expectations and your goals to state that fear of failure. I know I'm the type of person where, and I think that's why I was drawn to you. I'm very like, dust yourself off and get off your butt. Like, keep moving. Like, that's just the way that you have to figure everything out. You're gonna fall on your face. I think being an entrepreneur, and that can be a hard thing, I think, for me at least, is that there's so many like roller coaster ups and downs with being an entrepreneur that if you can't brush yourself off, this business can be definitely a difficult thing to be in, for sure.
Yes.
So now I found your Break Free BU video training that you had, and I think that's where I was like, oh, I need to get this girl on to interview, because I have a lot of an audience. I feel that has to kind of get in front of people and be able to use their influence and not be afraid to take a no, because a lot of the people that I work with are influencers, and they're pitching brands that to work with them. So they're not used to taking the no and having to reach out and do that themselves. So I loved your training, and I thought that it would really be helpful for them to understand and explain the overarching ideas. You've kind of touched on it a little bit, I feel like, because you talked in that video about it's deeper than just what's on the surface, that there's more of a reason why you're there. So can you explain a little bit more about your training?
About the Break Free BU?
Yes.
Yes. So here's the thing. Before I jump into that, we talk a lot about mindset. And what I actually used to call myself a mindset coach, and I've recently changed this in the last few months, because I feel like it's less about what you're thinking up here and more about who you are being and how you are being, and are you being fully expressed as who you are. So that's sort of where the Break Free BU comes from, is let's get rid of all the ideas that you have about who you are, who you're supposed to be. Like, what are the boxes that you've been putting yourself in? What are the ideas you have about these boxes you've been putting yourself in? And start to remove those ideas. Like, identify, wait, is this really what I think? Is this really what I believe? So, for example, and I think I use this example in that training, is like, we have these ideas about, like, this is what a mom is. If I'm a good mom, I have to be like this. This is what a Christian is. If I'm a good Christian, I have to be like this. This is what a woman is. If I'm a woman, I have to be like this. And these boxes are so limiting. They're based on societal conditioning and beliefs of who we're supposed to be and how we're allowed to act. And then also on the experiences that we've had and the people and how they relate to us, which is also still tied to societal conditioning. So what are these little boxes that we've shoved ourselves into? And I used to do this too, is, okay, well, if I'm an entrepreneur who is helping people to make these transformations, then I have to be a certain way. I have to be like really gentle and really delicate and really nice and super supportive. And yes, I am supportive, but I was boxing myself into this shape, and I really wasn't showing up as I am in the person that I truly am, where I can really help them. I was too delicate. I was too nice. I was attracting people who really didn't want to do the work because they wanted somebody to sit there and babysit their feelings. And that's not really who I am. I am I'm going to help push you into action. I might push some of your buttons a little bit, because those are the things that you need to work on and work through, and to get to that next level. So Break Free BU is about breaking out of those boxes that you put yourself in, identifying the beliefs you have, and then actually showing up, scraping away all of that and showing up as you truly are. And this is something that is so powerful in your business, in your relationships, in how you show up for yourself in every aspect of your life. Because when you're not really being who you are, you're not really living fully, and you may not even be pursuing the dreams you actually want, because you're so stuck in an idea of how you're supposed to be. So when you can actually show up as you are, you can really create what you want for yourself.
I love that. Now, one of the things that I saw on your Facebook page is you do a lot of live feeds, and I'm also a huge fan of live feeds, because they do. You can tell right off the bat, like, you're going to repel certain people, but you are going to attract a certain type of person, and that's what you want coming towards you, rather than, like you said, getting stuck into working with someone that's looking for you to babysit their feelings, and that's just not what you're looking to do. So one of the things that I listened to you talk about in one of your lives was about how a woman has a tendency to always apologize. And this has been something that I have been working on for years, because my husband would say to me, Jen, just because you walk in front of someone doesn't mean you have to apologize. Like, you're going through the same door. You don't need to say sorry, just walk. And I think it was more like, I always felt that I had to apologize for some reason. And I have. I've been really, really, really trying to work on this, especially when it comes to my business, because I do have 2 kids. I'm juggling all these different things. And I shouldn't have to apologize to someone when I'm, 2 days a little bit later than when I said, and I'm trying to stick within deadlines, or having to reschedule for certain things, or having to say no. Oh my goodness, that was the hardest thing for me for the longest time. Because you just say, oh, I'm sorry, I can't do that. No, it's not, you're sorry, you just can't do it. That's all that's to it. So what do you feel it is about as a woman that we have a tendency of always apologizing for things?
So I think there are several things, and I know a couple of guys who do this. I have one friend in particular who just apologizes for everything, but mostly it's women. And I think it is part aspect that we are socialized to constantly accommodate other people. And so just the very fact that we take up space, we feel like we have to apologize for it. Like, oh, I'm sorry I took up this space that you were in. So even in that video that was on my page that you're talking about,
yes.
I've had multiple women who come out of a bathroom stall and apologize. And I'm like, are you sorry for going to the bathroom? Are you sorry for coming out of the bathroom? I'm not really sure what you did wrong.
Right.
And it's like, just because you took up space because you had to go and relieve yourself, you don't have to apologize for that. So we're socialized to constantly accommodate other people. We're socialized to constantly put other people first. And so it puts us in this perpetual state of apologizing for our very existence, apologizing for our dreams, apologizing for our opinions when we really don't have to. Now, something that also came out of that video is in the comments, there was someone who said that she came from an abusive relationship with an abusive partner, and she had a mother who was almost like narcissistic. And so she's like, apologizing is like, she's like, it's second nature. She's like, I hate it, but I don't really know how to stop. And one of the things I encouraged her to do was, and I had a suspicion, but I don't come from an abusive relationship like that or an abusive partnership. So it was just a suspicion from other people that I've looked at and worked with and that I know. But I was like, I encourage you to ask yourself, what did you get from apologizing all the time? Like, what did that do for you? Because even though it sucks and you hate it and it makes you feel weak, you got something, you're getting something from doing it all the time. And she couldn't think of an answer. And I said, let me know if this hits. And I said, it sounds to me like it was an aspect of self-preservation because you had these people that you didn't feel safe with. And so it's like, maybe if I apologize, then I'll get hurt less, or I won't get hurt, or they'll back off. And so for other women, even if you're not come from an abusive situation, it could be a matter of self-preservation of, well, if I apologize, if I seem really accommodating, maybe people will like me. Maybe people will be more accepting. Because think about how much flack we get when we're aggressive or when we're adamant. We get called the B word. We get called, all these things, whereas men would be called assertive. They would be called confident. And so we have been taught to withdraw and pull ourselves in and pull ourselves back from being loud, from taking up space, because maybe then that'll be more accepting. Maybe then people will like me. Maybe then I won't be in danger of judgment, of some other negative consequence. And so I think that could be a big reason why we're socialized that way, or why we do it, is because there is something you're getting out of it that is actually perpetuating a pattern that you can then break. So if you get to that underlying aspect, what am I getting out of this? Even though it makes me feel small, why am I doing this? Because maybe small feels safe, or maybe small feels something else, or maybe it feels like, well, I can fly under the radar and do something else. Like whatever it is, you get to that bottom thing and then start navigating out of it, and that'll help you break that habit.
So as you were sitting here explaining it, I'm trying to think of why it is that I did it. And you just called it right out. Like, it was that whole thing of wanting to be seen as kind or nice. Because as in high school and college, I played sports, and I was always a captain of the team. I was always one of the ones that got different awards and things of that nature. And because of that, it was that aggressive, that, oh, she's a sporty, she's, and because you just kind of, and that exactly is the reason I wanted to be looked at as being nice and kind, because on the other side of things, I was so aggressive in sports and always took charge that it was seen as a negative in many aspects of my life. That makes so much sense. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
So
yeah, it wasn't until I got some of those comments that I was like, we can dive deeper in here, guys. Dive deeper. What are you really getting out of this? Why are you perpetuating this habit? What's happening there for you? So it's powerful when you start getting down into those deeper layers and navigating out from there.
Is there a way you feel that we can quickly improve our mindset? There are questions that we can ask ourselves, ways that strategies we can use to improve our mindset, you think?
There definitely are. One of the things, especially if you're feeling stuck in a moment, there are people I've talked to where they're like, I get stuck like writing a blog post or posting a blog or, moments like that is when you start feeling resistance to taking action, like reaching out to someone to connect to for your blog or a speaking opportunity or anything like that. When you start to feel that resistance, there's actually like a little formula that I have, and it's called the fear response formula. But I actually won't go through all the steps here, but one of the things you want to do is first start to recognize when that resistance happens. Like, what actions do you take that, now suddenly I feel kind of icky, or I feel like, I'm afraid to pull the trigger on this. And then ask yourself, what's actually going on for me here? Because one thing that happens is a lot of times we feel resistance and then we go and distract ourselves and go do something else. And we do that before we even realize that we're having a resistance. Our physical bodies will respond first. And so we'll do that before we even realize we're having resistance. We'll go distract ourselves. We'll go do something else. We'll be like, I just can't think straight. We'll agonize over the moment. And if you actually stop and take a few breaths and you're like, okay, what's going on for me in this moment? You will start to discover like the below the surface things going on. And then you can address those things, because it's not the blog. It's not posting it. It's not hitting play on this live video. It's not hitting send on the email. It's what you're afraid is going to happen when you do. And that takes a little bit more navigation. So I'm all about digging down into the deeper layers and then moving out from there so that you can peel that stuff away and expand outward.
Okay. Yeah. And when you're talking about that, I'm thinking of a specific client that I have that has a tendency to get in like a funk. She'll know that she wants to get stuff done, but she feels so and I guess there's quite a few actually clients that I have that are like this. They get overwhelmed by all that has to get done in order to run your business online, because it is like the wild, wild west out there. Let's be honest. So yes. You're making it up as you're going, and you're like, okay, where do I spend my time? Do I spend it on Pinterest? Do I put it on Facebook Live? Where do I go? And then she just kind of, the one that I'm thinking in particular, just kind of shuts down and doesn't know how to like move forward and get past that and feel like I am making a difference. I am moving forward in my business. So yes, I totally can see that.
There are actually two things. In the case of overwhelm, and I had this yesterday, just last night, I went through this. I was like, oh my gosh, I have so many things. I had different things passing through my brain that I had to do, and I couldn't even hold on to any of them because I was in the middle of doing something else. And I was like, you know what? I just need to do a brain dump. And a brain dump is you take a piece of paper or a notebook, set a timer for like 15, 20 minutes, and you just write out everything that you have to do. Just dump it out on a piece of paper. And that way you can actually look at it. Because when it's flying around in your head, it's really hard to keep track of all the different things. Now, when you have it all on paper, I was going to show you, but I don't have the paper. I had like two different kinds. But when you have it all down and you look at it, it might still feel overwhelming, and that's okay. You have it down. Okay, you at least have something you can look at, and then you can start to prioritize, what do I need to do first? What do I need to do right now? And thinking about your goals. If your goal is money, then maybe there's certain things that are not really going to make you money right now. So focus on if I need money right now, what are the things that are going to make me money right now? And put your effort there. Okay, if you are like, I've got the money, but I really, really want to build my audience to get more leads, then put your effort there. And so that you to help people, as like a second thing, to help people, we can get through our day doing a lot of different things, and then at the end of it feel like, God, I didn't get anything done. And then you start feeling down and you're like, what did I spend all my day doing? I just wasted my time. What I like to do is I have a little notebook, and it's my, it's called a progress log. So in this notebook, I actually write down like, what did I actually do today? I list out, what did I do today, so that I can see, oh, I actually got things done, and automatically that puts you in a better mood. And then I typically will write down, okay, these are 3 things that I need to do tomorrow in order of importance, so that the next day when I get to my work, I can look at it and be like, yep, these are my 3 top priority things. And then at the end of the day, again, I write down, what did I actually do? What am I doing tomorrow? And it's a good way of looking back. You can even look back at the end of the week and be like, wow, I did get things done, and that way you can start to shift that mindset from like the negative, I didn't get things done, because maybe you didn't get quite the results you wanted. So you think it means you didn't get anything done. But when you look back, you're like, actually, I did get a lot of things done. That was good setup. And congratulate yourself. Congratulate yourself. Give yourself kudos for it.
I like the way that you talked about prioritizing too, because I think that that's important, because a lot of times that's what holds us up, is we don't understand where to start. We see a big, huge list of things, and it's overwhelm. One of the books that I actually read over the summer last year that changed the way that I do things, and I've talked about this multiple times probably at the podcast at this point, is the book The One Thing. Have you read it? By Jay Paxton and Gary Keller.
I have not. I think I've heard of it though.
Okay. It's excellent. They dive into focusing on the one thing that each day that's going to move your business forward. So that if it is, like you said, making money, then you can make sure that you get that done, and then you can do all the other little social media crap things that you have to get done, or all the answering the emails and everything else that feels like you're just putting out fires. But you have to put the time into that one thing that's moving your business forward for that project before you can do anything else. And it made a huge difference for me in my business. Yes. So I love that you're on that same path. So I have to ask, what put you on the path towards helping others with their mindset? You talked about, so first of all, I found it's the yoga, I can totally see. The martial arts, I was like, oh my goodness, don't want to get in trouble with her. And then, I guess it combined it all together. It just, I guess, makes sense for a transformational coach, right?
Yes. So, martial arts I was actually doing before, really like practicing regularly, training regularly before I was doing yoga, and then before I was teaching yoga. I actually started taking yoga with my teacher that I did my teacher training with, because of martial arts, because she was teaching a class at my martial arts school. So it kind of led me in there. But martial arts definitely helps with mindset. Definitely helps with like blocks, with resistance, with fear. When someone's punching you and you're like, oh man, they punch harder than I do. But these things, and then yoga, and in particular, forest yoga. So my teacher taught forest yoga, and I have done a little bit of like workshops and things with her teacher, Anna Forrest, who created forest yoga. But she wrote a book called Fierce Medicine, which I devoured like half of it. It's one of those books where like I can only get as far as like I need. So I've gotten like 2/3 of the way through, and just devoured those first 2/3, and it made a huge difference for me. So some of these, I had like a big transition about 7 years ago, where like everything I had planned just kind of like fell apart, and everything was just like a mess. It was a big old mess. And I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? So that is where I started to dive deeper into like yoga, and I was like, oh, I'm going to do this teacher training. And through the things that I learned and the transformations that I made, peeling away the layers of who everyone said I'm supposed to be, peeling away the layers of the fears that I had, learning to voice my truth, learning to show up more fully as who I am. And this is a process that it never really ends. You'll find other ways that old patterns start to surface, and then you'll catch it and be like, all right, I can expand beyond that. And you start to transform more and more into who you truly are. And this is a process that I did for myself. And in doing that, I saw how this was blocking so many other people. It's like when you kind of get to like the other side of something and you're like, oh, everybody over there is just walking around with blindfolds on. And I'm like, take your blindfolds off, everybody. So for me, I came into it as like having gone through this and feeling what it was like to feel so entrapped by the old stuff, old junk that was pulling me down, and what it was like to clear that, and how hard, to be honest, how hard it is. I was like, I want to make this, I want to help other women do this, and I want to make this maybe a smoother process, give them support that like I didn't quite have, give them tools that they don't have to go and find and figure out on their own, like share the things that I have with them and guide them through this process for themselves so that they can make that transformation, so they can evolve, so they can expand and fully express.
I think that's so important that you're, because I didn't totally understand that in the beginning, and seeing that you've gone through the process yourself and now you're able to teach it. So often we see all these Facebook ads and there's everyone's, promoting themselves as a guru, but I find that the people that really have dug in deep and done the work on themselves first, those are the best teachers. The ones that can do it and then turn around and teach it, those are the ones you want to work with, I think, in my mind, for sure. Now, you have a download for my audience. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
I do. So this is the Fear to Self-Confidence. It's a video training series, 3 parts. And the Fear to Self-Confidence video series, it will teach you how to tap into the intelligence of your body, which I was talking about a little bit earlier, because your body responds to emotion before your brain catches up. So it'll teach you how to tap into the intelligence of your body so you can take control in moments of fear or doubt or insecurity. You will learn how to actually leverage your fear so that you can expand beyond your comfort zone. So it's not about overcoming fear. It's about learning from your fear and using it to get past that moment and past that block. And you'll also learn my fear response formula, which I mentioned earlier. And this will teach you how to turn fear moments and spin them around and use them to make empowered action. But with that fear series, there's also a step-by-step companion workbook that also even takes you deeper. So you'll discover what are the underlying fears holding you back, not the surface ones like fear of failure, and what you can do about them. You'll get clarity on what you really want, like what you truly want, so that you can take action towards it. And you will use your fears to both build confidence, take back control, so you can get things done. So this is 3 parts. There's actually each video has like a little intro video, which comes from my YouTube, but I put it in there for easier access and so that it makes it like more cohesive.
Okay.
And so there's like a little intro video, and then there's a training that's anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes. And there's 3 parts of that plus the workbook.
That sounds absolutely amazing. And the fact that you made it a free training for my audience and that they're able to use it, I will be taking a look at that this afternoon. Because we always can continue to work on ourselves, obviously. So one of the questions that I always ask guests that come onto the show are your projections for 2017 as far as industry, and then possibly how you'll be applying them in your business.
Okay, so I think there's a couple things. One, live streaming is big and it's getting bigger. So I think that's going to keep growing. And that is something that's a core part of my strategy, because I love making videos and I love going live. And even though I'm a writer, I don't like writing blogs, So for me, I'm like making video. I like writing books. I like writing my books and my novels. So I was like, I need to find something else. So I think live streaming is just going to keep getting bigger, and they're going to find new ways to monetize it. So Facebook is monetizing it, but I think there are going to be even more ways to monetize it. I also think that there's going to be more activism in business. I think that's going to be something it's happening, but I think it's going to keep getting bigger, that people are going to start getting louder about the things that they stand for, the things that they value, and they're going to use their business, which is a position of power, to create change in those areas. I think that's going to grow. And that's actually that's how I feel about my business. So that's something that is, I'm already weaving in, and I feel like my business is my activism. It is my resistance, because I'm empowering women out of the stories they've been told about themselves so that they can show up authentically. So those 2 things. And then the third one is this authenticity, this element of like, let's stop being what people say. Let's break these barriers around who we're supposed to be and actually show up as we are. I think that's going to get bigger in the personal development mindset realm, which is good for me because that's exactly what I do.
Right.
But I think it's also going to get bigger just in business. People are going to be like, people don't like, you can smell fake. You can smell fake from a mile away. People don't like fake. People like real. They like raw. They like honest. They like vulnerability. And I think that's just going to keep getting bigger. And that is something that can be very challenging. And I think I talk about that in the fear training series. It can be something that is challenging, but something that is really powerful because it allows you to relate. It allows your audience to relate more to you instead of like, oh, but they're this high and mighty person who's got all this great stuff. It's like, wait a minute, actually they're human and they have kind of the same struggles that I do.
Yes.
So, or they've been through it, or they're still going through it, or something like that. And it's really, I think those things are going to speak to people more, and I think they're going to get bigger and bigger in entrepreneurship.
And I feel like the live streaming and the authenticity go hand in hand because it's the perfect place to see how authentic you are and how you're going to handle situations. We've had so many situations just here in our live streaming where I've had my 3-year-old underneath the desk kicking it, the dog jumping at me, and just continuing to go on. And I remember getting off and wanting to cry afterwards. And I called my project manager and she's like, no, don't delete it. Go back and go look at all the comments. And the comments were so amazing because they're all moms. And they all resonated with them. And they were like, I can't believe you kept going. That was so awesome. If you can do it, I can do it. It is. It's about being authentic, being real with people. And I think live streaming gives you that opportunity to do it. So I think you are right on with that. It's also part of my business strategy too.
Yes. I mean, think about that CNN video where they were having like that. And, and the kids come in and the kids just in the little bouncy thing. Yeah. And then the mom's like, oh my God. And she's trying. It was hilarious. But that video went viral. Everybody loved it. And he was just sitting there like chuckling, trying to keep a straight face.
Right.
And these things happen all the time. Like my mentor was doing a live stream, I think last week, and her son came in and he was like, have you seen my phone? And she's like, no, but I'm on live right now.
Right.
He's like, well, I need my phone. She's like, okay, well, I don't have your phone. So, so these things like live streaming it's real. These little mistakes that you make, you can't really refine them. And people like that because they're like, yep, that's how I feel when I'm trying to do anything in life.
Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Yes. So now, where are the best places to find you? You have to tell us your Facebook page because that's where you do all your live streaming from, right?
Yes. Okay. So you can find me at facebook.com/Ignite Thrive Creative. So definitely go and follow me there because that is where I do live stream trainings. And some of these are longer ones with like action steps for you. And then you can also find me. My website is ignitethrivecreative.com. You can actually get the Fear to Self-Confidence video series at ignitethrivecreative.com/influencer. And right there, you can go ahead and download it. And then I am also on Pinterest. So you can search me. I actually think my Pinterest is pinterest.com/Kristin Iris. So you can find me on there and that will give you links to like my blog, which is really video. It's not really a blog.
Perfect.
So those are some of the best places. Yes.
All right. And we'll have all of those in the show notes. So you guys, if you are driving and listening to this, you need to get home, get on the computer and be able to come over to download the 3-part video series for sure, so that you can take a part in that, and then be able to make sure that you follow Kristin everywhere. So thank you so much, Kristin, for taking the time to speak with me and to talk to my audience. This was an awesome interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was such a pleasure. I love sharing with more people and getting them to just like step out of their fear and step into their power.
Awesome. Thank you so much.